So this is the first sill that I'm going to attempt. So as you can see there, not in good nick. I'm going to have to grind all of that back. I want to be really careful with this little grommet here because as you can see there, down the rest of the sill, which is in really, really good nick, but they hold the plastic trim piece on. That makes this look like an off-roader, man. So I've got to make sure that they stay intact. And as you can see how flimsy this piece of metal is there. So got to be really, really careful with that. And of course that bit there is sort of bent and almost cracked anyway, so not ideal. Going to get the angle grinder on this, try and tidy it up and see where I get to. It is now many days later, because of course it is, with rain and winter and all that, but I've managed to cut out a pretty decent shaped hole there with the help of some Tip-X or correction fluid. Yeah, I've just got to, I suppose, cut the metal to size now and start tacking it into place. At long last then, I've got my little piece of cardboard cut out, and that's pretty perfectly fits the hole. Got my angle grinder and I've got the bit of steel off an old bonnet over in that corner. Let's get cutting. There we are then, we have it pretty well marked out. So as you can see there, put it a bit more forward and we got it, there we go. Yeah, I hope I can get this cut and start welding. We are losing light gradually. It's what, about 4 o'clock in the evening, on a winter's evening in February, but yeah, let's see how far we get. Right, I don't know how much of this you're going to be able to see, but let's see how we get on. Try and do something today anyway. If we just even get it tacked into place, I'd be dead happy. I think it might be working. Honestly, I really, really do. Right, let's carry on then. See how much more we can get done. The light is really, really poor. Here then is my welding progress. Now, it doesn't look great, does it? I mean, look, I know it doesn't. Looks like a pigeon has shat itself many, many times. But it is solid. As this tap with a hammer will prove. You know, it's nice and solid. It's not fully welded in. I've still got to do places there. It's pig ugly. I've blown holes in it. There's welding wire attached to it and everything, but it's solid and you're not going to be able to see it under the body panel anyway. So I'm going to grind it all back and make it look a lot prettier and then primer it. But yeah, I probably shouldn't have left that couple of mil gap there. So that's going to have to be a filler job. It's another bitterly cold day as I aim to get this piece of automotive brilliance back on the road. But the one main benefit of the K series is it heats up dead quick, so I've got lovely hand warmers. Oh, that is lovely stuff. My first ever go at welding. Doesn't look too bad, I don't think, but of course I would say that, wouldn't I? I had to do a series of tacks, and I've had to grind them all back, of which I haven't done a fantastic job so far. Oh, there you go, sorry, there's miles out there. Did find another little hole there, so that actually looks probably more like a little filler job, to be perfectly honest. And let me just show you under here, because I completely forgot there was a hole under here. There it is there. It's not huge. Perhaps weld a little plate or just fill it. Not too sure on that one. Look at my panel gaps. So on this side I can get, you know, pretty much all of my little fingertip in there. Pretty hefty gap, and I can actually get my whole thumb around that section there up until there. Come round here though, and I can't really do that. How does the thumb? The thumb, yeah, actually, sorry, no, the thumb does go in. Okay, but not as comfortably. And I can't get anything in between, in between the body and the light cluster there. So, yeah, British build quality. Not at its finest there. I'm yet to tackle the welding job on this side. Hoping this one might be a little bit easier than the other one because, well, I don't really know, probably just because I've got a bit more experience. It's probably going to be a little bit more metal and a slightly more awkward shape to cut. Got to, of course, be careful of those little red tethering points for the little clips there for the body panel. But thankfully, though, this side is all solid. I did have to grind back, where are we there? I had to grind back some surface rust there. Thankfully it hasn't gone through, and I've given that a little rust conversion treatment, so I'm going to spray that with underseal shortly. You're not going to obviously see these sills when the plastic panel is back on, so I don't really care what colour it is, just as long as it protects it. Look at my new jack. Fantastic, that, isn't it? Draper, so nice and reliable, hopefully. Decent quality. Would want to be for the money I paid for it, but it is holding nicely. Might even be able to get a tiny bit more height on it there. Excellent stuff. I've also been busy underneath the Streetwise, and yes, your eyes do not deceive you. That is a huge rust hole on the chassis leg, which is really, really bad news. But of course, I've proved that I can weld, as you can see with this patch on the sill. It is solid, even though it needs a little bit of extra welding and tidying up there. So I'm going to have to weld that, but I'm going to have to be very, very careful when I do so, because dun dun dun, there is the petrol tank. So yeah, any issues with that and I'll be wiped off the map, as will this location and the car. So I've got to be very, very careful with that as well. Things under here are a little bit prettier than they were because I've managed to tidy it up with a wire wheel on the end of my new drill. It doesn't look too pretty on that inner sill, but it is at least solid. Bit more corrosion up there and pretty much everywhere, but yeah, I'm going to get busy today doing some more grinding back and some more rust protection under here. I haven't even gone near the other side yet, but I do believe it's solid from some preliminary screwdriver poking. Finally, after weeks, and I mean weeks of welding, it's finally finished. I'm delighted to say. So let's have a little look at it. Now, the first thing I've got to say is that yes, it is not aesthetically pleasing, is it? But I've ground it all back, and you can see there, not looking beautiful, is it? But it's all ground back, and there is at least rock solid. So there's a few little gaps, as you can see there. Of course, I was flux core welding it, which is not recommended for car body work because of the thin nature of the metal. I had to weld another patch there. Another one down the far end that I can't really be bothered showing you right now. But I'm going to give that a skimmer filler over the next day or two. Give it a splash of primer and a top coat. Oh, and it'll all be finished on this side. Let's show you the other side. And of course, the story is much the same on this side as well. Didn't really go all that well there. You can see I blew a hole in it. But again, skimmer filler, you won't know the difference, will you? Look at that. We had a bit of an issue down here where I found more rust, so I welded a plate into it, but it didn't go that well. There's a bit more corrosion there, so I'm just going to fill it. Skimmer fill it should be good, and where you need it to be solid, it is. So I'm chuffed with that. Not the prettiest job you've ever seen, but for my first ever attempt at welding, I don't think it's been a disaster. I think it's actually been all right. So I shall update once the filler's on, and we'll take it from there. Here then is the result of my welding, filling and primering. Yeah, it's flipping ugly, as I think I may have said about 1,000,000 times, but it's functional and it's solid, and now thankfully protected from rust as well. So this then is the rear passenger side, and again, not pretty, but strong, and I am very, very happy with that. So the next coat then is to put underseal where the jack and points are. There's little slots in the plastic covers that go over the sills on these cars, just to give it some extra rust protection. And that is exactly what I've just sprayed on the driver's side sill, where we had a bit of a hole that I've patched, filled, primered, and now undersealed with this good stuff. bar dowel. World famous, apparently. If I keep this Streetwise rust free, I'll be delighted with it. So just got to repeat this step on the other 2 weld patches, and then it's plastic panels back on, and we'll be very, very close to being back on the road. Project Streetwise has taken another huge step to getting back on the road. And that huge step is the completion of bodywork and the refitting of these sill panels. Now, I didn't video it because it was very sweary. I hate ratty-tatty natty plastics with clips and all that, and it just got a little bit painful and a little bit horrendous. But they're back on, and they didn't get damaged, and all is good with the world. You wouldn't have a clue, would you, that it had some rather significant bodywork issues? No, of course you wouldn't. That little screw down there was there when I got the car, because you've got to secure that, because it's not very secure. But anyway, let's have a look at the other side, the passenger side here. And it's on, and that just looks wonderful, doesn't it? I can't tell you how fantastic that looks. It's back to being an urban on-roader, whatever the hell that means. And again, looking down here, you wouldn't have a clue, would you, that it needed some welding. Might try and fill that little gap there maybe with some bathroom sealant, like the previous owner looks to have done. Or maybe it came out the factory that way. Wouldn't surprise me. So yes, we are so close to getting this thing back on the road. I did bring it for a quick spin a few moments ago just to make sure everything was all right. Driving absolutely fine, the engine's nice and warm. Just got to check the engine oil level when it cools down a bit and make sure I haven't got any of the dreaded mayo under the filler cap. We've got a little tiny bit, but I think it's just because it hasn't been run properly in a couple of years, because it's not a lot. But you know what, I can touch it being back on the road. It's so close. As I mentioned then, that is the end of the welding and the end of the bodywork. Thank goodness. So the next step then is to spruce up that interior, as I mentioned, and to fix that little patch on the seat, which is rather worn. I did buy a couple of little self-adhesive, leathery sort of patches online the other day, so that, I think, will be the next video. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. Tune into that one when it's up, and I'll see you then.